This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. In the early years of India's independence, the country's air force relied primarily on Britain as its equipment supplier. India's first jet was the de Havilland Vampire. Even before the arrival of more advanced F-86 Sabres to Pakistan in 1956, India was negotiating to buy Hawker Hunters and English electric Canberras. While these negotiations resulted in a purchase that continued India's reliance on British equipment, an offer was made that signaled a major change in course. In 1955, the Soviets offered India their Ilyushin Il-28 jet bomber, comparable to the Canberra. The British Prime Minister Anthony Eden then personally offered Canberras at a discounted price, while additional pressure was put on the Indian government to maintain its policy of buying British equipment, and so the Soviet offer was passed over. When Pakistan received 12 F-104A starfighters in 1961, the balance of forces in the Indian subcontinent was disrupted, and the Indian leadership felt the need to purchase a Mach 2 fighter to counter the Pakistani acquisition. That same year, rumors appeared that the Indians were negotiating a purchase of Soviet MiG-19s, but this was soon denied with the explanation that they were simply considering the acquisition of Soviet engines to power the indigenous HF-24 Marut. But India was very seriously looking for an option to match the Pakistani F-104 capability, including an inquiry to purchase the same type from the USA. The Indians were interested in buying 3 squadrons worth of starfighters, but the Americans were unwilling to comply. Some sources suggest that F-5s were offered instead, however this never reached the level of a firmly documented proposal. The British, on the other hand, were not ready to lose their major export customer. They offered their own Mach 2 interceptor, the English Electric Lightning, which had not been exported until then. Heavy discounts were on the table, but it seems that India's desire to develop its own aviation industry through licensed local production of the type was the deal breaker, as the British were not ready to make such an arrangement. This really put the Soviets in the most favorable position. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and you can play it for free on PC, consoles and mobile devices. It doesn't require expensive hardware, you can play it with a mouse and keyboard, while its advanced optimization allows even lower-end machines to run it smoothly. War Thunder lets you command over 2,500 airplanes, helicopters, tanks and ships from 10 major nations, from 1920s biplanes all the way to 4th-generation jets and modern MBTs. The incredible range of combat aircraft in War Thunder has made possible much of the content you enjoy here on Showtime 112, including this very video. Don't wait, immerse yourself in the intense battles of War Thunder, where highly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects put you in control of the most powerful war machines of our time. Whether you prefer fast-paced arcade action, realistic simulation battles, or something in between, you will find it all in War Thunder. Join a worldwide community of over 95 million players in epic PvP battles, because no other game is better suited for fans of military history. New players on PC and consoles, as well as those who haven't played in the past 6 months, will receive a massive bonus pack that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions and 7 days of premium account time. Already in 1961, while the negotiations for the purchase of engines for HF-24 Maruts were taking place, the Soviets demonstrated the capabilities of their brand new MiG-21 to the Indian team. The reports of returning Indian officers were crucial in making the MiG-21 an option. Soviet designs were always simpler than Western ones, which made them better suited for manufacture in a country that had little experience with the aviation industry. An agreement with the Soviets was indeed reached in August 1962, and it covered 12 aircraft and Soviet assistance in establishing licensed production of the MiG-21 in India. A group of 8 Indian Air Force pilots arrived in the USSR to take a 5-month conversion training course. All of them were highly qualified fighter pilots, and they found the Soviet instructors and facilities rather lacking. They were given less than 5 hours of flying time each, although classroom instruction was apparently good. The first 6 MiG-21 F-13s reached India on 28th of January 1963, equipping No. 28 Squadron at Chandigarh, Punjab. The unit was appropriately named 1st Supersonics. 2 of the Indian MiG-21s were lost in a mid-air collision during a training flight on 21st of December 1963. Fortunately, both pilots, Squadron Leaders Malcolm Molly Wollen and Arun Mukherjee, successfully ejected. Additional MiG-21s only arrived in March 1965, in the form of 6 MiG-21 PFs. What are the main differences between these two early variants of the MiG-21? The F-13 was equipped with a radar gun sight only, and its main weapons were 2 K-13 air-to-air missiles and a single 30mm cannon with only 60 rounds of ammunition. The PF variant carried a search radar, but it had no internal guns, relying instead on air-to-air missiles only. Several contemporary Western designs were the victims of the same "no guns needed anymore" philosophy, and the Soviets were not immune from such thinking. The Indians planned to procure further airframes in 1965, but the conflict with Pakistan found No. 28 Squadron still in the testing phase, with between 8 and 10 operational aircraft. August 1965 saw the beginning of the Second Indo-Pakistani War. We have already covered some of the early action of the aerial warfare in this conflict, and you can watch those videos if you missed them, or rewatch them if you have forgotten the details. The Indian Air Force relied primarily on Wollen Gnats and Hawker Hunters to deal with their Pakistani counterparts, and the MiG squadron played a limited role. In early September, as the conflict intensified, the MiG-21s were deployed to Pathankot and Adampur, and their primary tasks were combat air patrol and quick reaction alerts. Throughout the conflict, about 80 sorties were flown. The first contact with enemy aircraft for the Indian MiG-21s occurred on 4th of September. Indian ground forces organized defensive positions around the town of Jaurian, expecting a Pakistani advance. Both sides realized the strategic importance of this location, and the two air forces organized many close air support missions in the area. Along with Gnats and Mystères, the Indians sent some of their MiG-21s to confront the possible threat of Pakistani F-104s and Sabres. No. 28 Squadron Commander Molly Wollen was leading a 2-aircraft flight with Squadron Leader Mukherjee as his wingman. The aircraft in question were the later MiG-21 PF variants, and they were carrying 2 K-13s each. The MiG's task was to sanitize the area under friendly radar control, attempting to draw Pakistani combat air patrols away from Indian Mystères and Gnats, flying above them at 16,000 feet. The two Indian pilots were flying racetrack patterns and thinking about how much they depended on ground radar to warn them of a possible enemy attack. Their own radars were showing nothing but clutter. Molly Wollen switched his radar off and then heard a call from the Gnat formation leader, announcing visual contact with Sabres. This was a formation finishing a bombing run. Among many Pakistani CAS missions that day, there was one flown by 12 F-86 Sabres of No. 15 Squadron, known as the Cobras. The strike package was divided into 3 flights of 4 Sabres each. They were armed with unguided rockets and napalm, and were supposed to stay in the target zone for no more than 5 minutes. The Pakistanis also sent 4 of their F-104s to provide top cover at 20,000 feet. The first 2 formations strafed Indian vehicles on the road between Akhnur and Jaurian and achieved success, destroying a number of them. "26 vehicles were claimed destroyed by Pakistani pilots. They disengaged from the area and were followed by the 3rd Formation. It was led by Squadron Leader Muniruddin Ahmed. Guided by a forward air controller, the Sabres arrived at their assigned grid at 500 feet just after 3 p.m., armed with napalm bombs, and soon spotted what appeared to be a field headquarters. 4 Sabres attacked the location and released their bombs, unsure if they had hit anything of value. Meanwhile, the Indian MiG flight leader, Wollen, carried out a slow roll, inverting his aircraft and trying to pick up Gnats and Sabres below. He then instructed his wingman to accelerate to combat speed and rolled out on a 290-degree course. Soon, the MiG pilots could hear over their radios the call of shooting down an enemy aircraft made by one of the Gnat pilots. After their bomb run, the Pakistani formation turned to the left and climbed to 1,000 feet. Number 4 did not respond to a radio check, and the leader, Squadron Leader Muniruddin Ahmed, started scanning the sky while weaving his fighter for a better look. He did not know it at the time, but his number 4 had just been shot down by an Indian Gnat. Other Gnats in the formation had gun stoppage issues, preventing them from attacking the remaining Sabres. The Indian pilots broke away as the remaining Sabres were escaping home. This left the field wide open for the 2 MiGs, which were in a shallow dive, still trying to spot the Pakistani fighters. As they passed 10,000 feet, Wollen finally picked up 2 Sabres flying in line abreast formation and crossing from left to right. The Indian leader announced he was going for the Sabre on the right, went into a hard right turn and then reversed, scanning the sky for other aircraft. The number 2 MiG pilot lost sight of his leader during the high G maneuver. At about 1.5 kilometers, Wollen got a steady lock-on tone from one of his K-13 missiles. He fired and watched as the missile initially guided well, but then hit the ground well short of its target. The Soviet missile apparently locked on to ground heat return, which was a common problem for early heat-seeking missiles. The MiG was approaching the Sabre and descended down to the same altitude, about 300 feet. Wollen got another locked tone and launched his second missile from a much closer range. As the Pakistani Sabre leader was still looking for his number 4 man, he noticed a streak of fire leaving a smoke trail to his right. He tightened his stern and watched the missile pass by his Sabre. After checking left and right, he looked above and noticed a silver-colored Delta aircraft merely 15 meters away. It was an Indian MiG-21. With no guns in his MiG-21 PF, frustrated Wollen impulsively decided to ram his opponent and again engaged his afterburner to close the distance. Reason quickly prevailed, and Wollen pulled up, just meters away from the Sabre. The Pakistani leader reacted by pushing his Sabre down and leveling off just above the ground. He then reported the contact on the radio with his famous stutter. "Contact with the MiG-21. By God, he nearly had me." Indian fighters achieved a single victory in this battle, but the outcome might have been much worse for the Pakistani pilots, had it not been for unreliable weapons on the Indian side. The Gnats experienced gun jams, while Squadron Leader Wollen's missiles both missed their target. Had he been flying the older MiG-21 F-13 variant equipped with a gun, he would have likely scored the first aerial victory for the most numerous jet fighter in history. Pakistani sources admit losing the number 4 Sabre to Indian Gnats, but descriptions of the close encounter with an Indian MiG-21 are generally lacking. John Fricker's Battle for Pakistan, the Air War of 1965, in fact claims that no contact was made. The two Mach 2 fighter types, the MiG-21 and the F-104, only met once during the 1965 war. Two Indian MiGs met a single F-104 west of Halwara. Flight Lieutenant Hakimullah, the F-104 pilot, was about to attack two Gnats below him. As he was positioning his starfighter for an AIM-9B shot, the Pakistani pilot was warned of the approaching MiGs. He looked up and saw two MiGs diving at him. Hakimullah broke and dove for the deck, accelerating away at Mach 1.1. The MiGs attempted to catch up but failed, and returned to base after reaching the border between the two countries. The F-104 was forced to make an emergency landing at a disused airstrip, with the engine flaming out immediately after leaving the runway. Indian MiGs, however, suffered losses in the 1965 war, but only on the ground. On 6th of September, the Pakistani Air Force carried out the most successful air base attack in its history when 8 Sabres led by Squadron Leader Syed Sajjad Haider attacked the Indian air base at Pathankot. Official Indian sources confirmed 10 aircraft being destroyed on the ground, including 2 MiG-21 PFs. Pakistani pilots initially claimed 7 MiG-21s destroyed, but even the Pakistani leader Haider confirmed in his book that his pilots made identification errors, and that most of those claims were in fact mistakes, while he agreed with the official Indian data on 2 MiG-21s destroyed in the raid. The attack was covered in detail in a Patreon exclusive video on this channel, which you can watch by becoming a Patreon member, even for a single month. Another MiG-21 was destroyed on the ground in a night raid by a single Pakistani B-57 whose pilot was nicknamed 8 Pass Charlie. This story will probably be covered in more detail in a future video. We can conclude that the MiG-21 only played a minor role in the 1965 conflict. The single MiG squadron was still not fully operational, and they could only rely on a single major ground radar system at Amritsar to guide them. Even when an opportunity for success came up, unreliable weapon systems deprived the Indian MiG pilots of a victory. This was to change very significantly in the 1971 conflict, and some of that was covered in several older videos on Showtime 112. Don't forget to try War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices using my links in the video description or pinned comment. New players on PC and consoles, as well as those who haven't played in the past 6 months, will receive a massive bonus pack that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account time. This offer is available for a limited time only. Thank you for your time and keep watching Showtime 112.